The Harrington family estate was a sprawling testament to wealth and excess. The sprawling mansion, with its manicured lawns and polished marble pathways, glittered under the evening sun, casting long shadows that danced across the grounds. A lavish party was in full swing, the air filled with the sounds of laughter, clinking glasses, and the soft strains of a string quartet. Jack Harrington, the eldest son and a self-made businessman, stood at the center of it all, basking in the attention of his guests. He was the embodiment of success, dressed in a tailored suit that accentuated his robust frame, his smile wide and confident. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jack boomed, raising his glass high. The crowd quieted, all eyes turning to him. "Tonight, we celebrate not just my latest business triumph, but the Harrington legacy. From humble beginnings to a fortune that continues to grow. Cheers to that." He grinned, and the guests erupted into applause, the sound echoing across the estate. In the corner of the room, away from the revelry, stood Tom Harrington. His hands clutched a simple glass of punch, the vibrant red liquid contrasting sharply with the opulence surrounding him. Tom's clothes were plain, a stark reminder of the life he had inherited, a life far removed from the glittering success of his brother. He watched Jack, his heart heavy with a mixture of admiration and resentment. The brothers had once been inseparable, but the wealth gap had driven a wedge between them, a chasm that had only widened over the years. "Look at him," Jack called out to a group of his friends, his voice dripping with mockery. "My dear brother, the cow whisperer. What a fine legacy father left him." Laughter erupted from the group, a cruel chorus that filled the air. Tom clenched his jaw, the sting of humiliation washing over him. He tried to remain invisible, to fade into the background, but the laughter felt like a spotlight, shining down on his inadequacy. "Jack, come on," one of his friends said, a hint of caution in his voice. "He's your brother." "Exactly," Jack replied, his laughter booming. "And what a brother he is. While I'm out there building an empire, he's what? Training a lame cow." He gestured dramatically, inviting more laughter. "Tom, I hope Daisy is ready for the grand stage. Maybe she'll win a prize for most pathetic." Tom could feel the heat rising in his cheeks, an uncomfortable mix of anger and embarrassment. He turned away, taking a deep breath to steady himself. He had never been one to lash out, to retaliate. Instead, he found solace in quiet moments, in the simple life his father had imparted to him. And tonight, as Jack reveled in his success, Tom felt more alone than ever. Later that evening, after the guests had started to mingle and the music had shifted to a more upbeat tempo, Tom slipped away from the party. He wandered through the estate gardens, the scent of blooming flowers mingling with the cool evening air. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the neatly trimmed hedges. He walked toward the small barn tucked away behind the house, a place that had always felt like home to him. Inside the barn, the familiar sight of Daisy greeted him. The lame cow stood quietly, her big brown eyes watching him with an understanding that only those who had been through hardship could share. Tom approached her, reaching out to stroke her mottled coat. "Hey there, girl," he whispered. "It's just us now." Tom's heart ached for their father. The old man had always been a hard worker, instilling in his sons the values of perseverance and humility. "You know, Dad always said that it's not about what you have, but what you do with what you're given," Tom murmured, casting a glance at Daisy's limp. "I guess I have to prove him right, don't I?" He leaned against the wooden stall, reflecting on their childhood, days filled with laughter and the smell of fresh hay. Afternoons spent exploring the fields and learning the value of labor. "You're not just a cow, you know," he continued, his voice growing more confident. "You're my partner in this. We'll show Jack that there's more to life than money and success." Daisy nudged him gently with her head, as if encouraging him to believe in their shared potential. Tom chuckled softly, wiping away a stray tear. "They think we're nothing, that I'm nothing, but we'll show them. You and me, Daisy. We'll find a way." If you're enjoying this video and want to see more content like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and activate the bell. That way, you won't miss any of our updates. Your support helps us bring you the best content possible. Continuing, as he spoke, he could hear the distant echoes of laughter and the clinking of glasses from the party. He imagined Jack, surrounded by admirers, oblivious to the quiet determination growing within him. "Let them laugh," he whispered. "Let them think they're better than us. One day, I'll prove them wrong." Meanwhile, back at the party, Jack had gathered a group of friends around him, their faces lit with amusement as they continued to poke fun at Tom. "What's he going to do? Train that cow to dance?" one of them joked, eliciting another round of laughter. "Maybe," Jack replied with a smirk. "Or perhaps he'll turn her into the family pet. That way, when I inherit the estate, at least I'll have something to keep me company in my loneliness." The laughter that followed was sharp, cutting through the air like a knife. Jack's friends egged him on, relishing the opportunity to belittle Tom. "It's a shame he didn't get anything worthwhile from your old man," one of them commented, taking a sip of his drink. "I mean, a cow? Come on, right?" Jack replied, his tone dripping with disdain. "What a legacy. My brother, the proud owner of the world's most useless cow. I almost feel sorry for him." He leaned back, basking in the camaraderie of his friends, feeling untouchable in his success. As the laughter and chatter continued, Jack turned to scan the room, finally noticing the absence of Tom. "Where did that loser run off to?" he asked, feigning concern. "Did he get lost on his way to the barn?" "Probably," one of his friends chuckled. "Looking for a hay bale to cuddle up to." Tom, meanwhile, remained in the barn, sharpening his resolve. He had grown tired of being the butt of the jokes, tired of living in Jack's shadow. The world might see a lame cow, but he saw potential. With renewed determination, he stepped back from Daisy and took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his father's teachings settle over him like a warm blanket. "I'll make you proud, Dad," he promised, glancing back at Daisy. "No matter what it takes." He felt a flicker of hope ignite within him, a small yet powerful flame that refused to be extinguished. With a final pat on Daisy's flank, he made his way back toward the party, ready to face the mockery that awaited him. He would no longer be a silent spectator in his brother's world of wealth and arrogance. It was time to carve his own path and show everyone, especially Jack, that true worth comes from resilience and hard work, not just money and status. Tom Harrington stood in the dim light of his modest barn, the air thick with the scent of hay and the earthy musk of livestock. He had spent the past year nurturing his meager inheritance, a lame cow named Daisy, and now, as the sun began to rise over the horizon, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The limp that had plagued Daisy since birth was a challenge he had accepted, and the training had become a labor of love. With every passing day, he had devoted hours to teaching her new skills, determined to prove that even a cow with limitations could shine in her own right. As Tom gently brushed Daisy's coat, he whispered encouragements. "You're going to show them, Daisy. We've got this." The cow blinked at him with her big, brown eyes, seemingly understanding his words. He had read about innovative farming techniques and had started implementing them, applying everything he learned to improve their living conditions. He had even designed a small obstacle course in the barnyard, a makeshift arena where Daisy could practice. With a determined sigh, Tom stepped back to admire his handiwork. The obstacles were simple but effective. A low fence to jump over, a series of cones to weave through, and a broad space for her to trot with grace. Each day, he would watch her struggle at first, but with patience and encouragement, she began to improve. The limp was still there, but it was no longer a limitation. It was a part of who Daisy was, just as Tom was learning to embrace his own identity as the underdog. Meanwhile, across town in his grand office, Jack Harrington was riding high on the coattails of his latest business success. His empire continued to expand, but he felt the pressure mounting as competitors began to circle like vultures. Jack spent long hours poring over market reports and strategizing ways to maintain his dominance. But the thrill of greed was beginning to wear thin. One evening, as he sat in his sleek office, a young intern burst through the door, excitement radiating from him. "Mr. Harrington, you need to see this," he exclaimed, holding a tablet in his hands. Jack leaned forward, intrigued. The intern displayed a video showcasing a groundbreaking new agricultural technology that could revolutionize farming practices. "This could skyrocket our profits," the intern said, his eyes wide with enthusiasm. "Imagine what we could do with this. We could corner the market on sustainable farming solutions." Jack's mind raced with possibilities. "How quickly can we get our hands on this technology?" he asked, already envisioning the accolades and the wealth that would follow. The intern flipped through the details, and as he read, Jack felt a familiar surge of arrogance wash over him. He would show everyone, including Tom, that he was the true king of the family, that the Harrington name meant success and power. Back in the rustic charm of Tom's barn, the local fair was fast approaching. Tom had decided to enter Daisy into the competition, despite the odds stacked against them. The support he felt from the small farming community was palpable. As he brushed Daisy, he envisioned the fairgrounds bustling with activity, families wandering from stall to stall, and the sound of laughter echoing in the air. He could already picture the judges, their faces skeptical but curious as they watched him and Daisy perform. "Let's practice one more time before the big day," Tom said, clapping his hands together. He positioned Daisy at the start of the obstacle course, feeling a rush of excitement mixed with nervousness. "Just like we've been doing. You're ready for this." With a deep breath, he signaled Daisy to start. The cow trotted forward, her limp evident but her spirit undeterred. Tom cheered her on, and as they navigated the course, he felt a sense of pride swell within him. It was not just about winning. It was about proving to himself and to the world that they could achieve greatness against all odds. As the day of the fair drew closer, Jack's anxiety about the competition began to fester. He had heard whispers of Tom's preparations and felt an unfamiliar sensation in the pit of his stomach. Fear. Fear that his brother might succeed where he had always been the victor. In a fit of rage, he gathered his closest business associates, determined to devise a plan to undermine Tom's efforts. "We cannot allow that fool to take the spotlight away from us," Jack growled, his jaw clenched. "He's a nobody, and he needs to stay that way. We'll make sure the judges see him for what he truly is." One of his associates, a man with slicked back hair and an air of sycophancy, nodded eagerly. "What do you propose, Jack? We could spread some rumors, tarnish his reputation." "It would be easy," Jack smirked, the glint of malice in his eyes. "No, we need to hit him where it hurts. Let's find a way to sabotage his performance. If we can make sure Daisy doesn't perform well, everyone will see him as the loser he truly is." As Tom worked tirelessly with Daisy, Jack plotted his brother's downfall. The stark contrast between their lives mirrored their internal struggles. Tom fought for recognition and respect, while Jack fought to maintain his empire, fueled by envy and arrogance. The day of the fair arrived, and the atmosphere was electric. Tom stood in front of the judges' table, his heart racing. Daisy stood beside him, her coat shining in the sunlight. The crowd buzzed with chatter, and Tom felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He could hear snippets of conversations around him. Some were supportive, while others were filled with skepticism. "Look at that cow," one man said, shaking his head. "How could he possibly win?" But Tom smiled. He had come too far to let negativity bring him down. He had spent countless hours training and had formed a bond with Daisy that no one could understand. It was time to show them what they were truly capable of. As the competition began, Tom showcased Daisy's skills, maneuvering through the course with precision and grace. The crowd was taken aback by their performance, and whispers of admiration began to ripple through the spectators. Tom's heart swelled with pride, and he could see the judges leaning in, intrigued by the unlikely duo. Just as he thought they might secure a win, a commotion arose from the sidelines. Jack had arrived, his face twisted with fury, and he began to shout accusations aimed at Tom. "You think you can just waltz in here and take the prize? Look at that pathetic cow. She's a joke." The audience turned to look at Jack, some frowning at his outburst. Tom took a deep breath, refusing to let his brother's words deter him. He focused on Daisy, who seemed to sense the tension and responded with a burst of energy. Together, they soared over the obstacles, the crowd's cheers growing louder. "Look at her go!" someone called out, and Tom grinned. This was their moment, and he could feel the tide turning in his favor. In that instant, he realized that the competition was about so much more than just winning. It was about proving to himself and to his community that they were deserving of respect. As the final round approached, Tom and Daisy prepared for their last performance. The stakes were high, but Tom felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. No matter the outcome, he had already won in his heart. The cheers of the crowd echoed in his ears, a reminder that he was not alone. He had built a community around him, one that believed in hard work and resilience. "Let's show them what we've got, Daisy," he said, determination coursing through him. They stepped forward, ready to make history together, unaware of the storm brewing just beyond the fairgrounds. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the Harrington estate, Jack Harrington paced back and forth in his opulent office, a tempest brewing within him. The walls adorned with accolades and certificates of achievement seemed to close in as he mulled over Tom's recent triumph. "How could that pathetic excuse for a farmer outshine me?" he muttered, his voice laced with bitterness. The thought that his brother, the very man he had ridiculed, was winning the admiration of their community gnawed at his pride. Jack's phone buzzed, jarring him from his thoughts. It was Greg, one of his business associates. "Jack, I heard what Tom did at the fair. People are talking. We can't let him gain any more traction," Greg said, his tone conspiratorial. Jack leaned back in his chair, the wheels already turning in his mind. "You're right. We need to nip this in the bud. I'll spread some rumors, paint him as a fraud. If people think he's just some lucky fool, they'll forget about him in no time." "Just be careful," Greg cautioned. "You know how people can react when family is involved." Jack waved his hand dismissively. "Family? This is business, Greg. I've worked too hard to let that loser tarnish my reputation." Meanwhile, Tom was unaware of the storm brewing. In the quiet of his modest barn, he was busy preparing Daisy for the upcoming community meeting. As he brushed her coat, a contented sigh escaped his lips. "You did so well at the fair, girl," he murmured, patting her gently. "I think we can take it a step further. It's time to show everyone what real farming means." His heart swelled with a sense of purpose. After the success at the fair, Tom had found a newfound camaraderie with local farmers. They often gathered in the evenings, sharing stories and discussing sustainable practices. They had even begun to plan a community initiative aimed at resisting the encroaching corporate influence represented by Jack. One evening, as the group sat around a fire, Tom spoke passionately, his eyes sparkling with conviction. "We can create a cooperative. If we work together, we can share resources and knowledge. We don't need to bow down to the likes of Jack Harrington." The farmers nodded in agreement, their resolve strengthening. "What do you propose we do first?" asked Sarah, a farmer known for her organic produce. "We should hold a community meeting. We can invite everyone, even those who have been hesitant about supporting us," Tom replied, his voice steady. "Let's show them that unity is our strength. If we're going to thrive, we need to be a force that can't be ignored." As the meeting drew closer, Tom felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. He knew that Jack would not take kindly to his efforts. Still, he was determined to push forward. No more hiding in the shadows, he told himself as he prepared his notes. The day of the community meeting arrived, and the town hall buzzed with energy. Farmers and townsfolk filled the seats, their murmurs creating a low hum of anticipation. Jack, lurking in the back, crossed his arms, his expression dark as he surveyed the gathering. He had no intention of letting Tom dominate the conversation. Tom stepped onto the stage, his heart racing. He took a deep breath and began. "Thank you all for coming today. I stand before you not just as a farmer, but as someone who believes in the power of our community." His voice resonated through the hall, and the crowd quieted, drawn in by his sincerity. "We all know the pressures we face from big corporations that seek to take advantage of our hard work. But I believe we can create something better. Together, we can foster sustainable farming practices that not only benefit us, but also preserve our land for future generations." A murmur of agreement rippled through the audience. Encouraged, Tom continued, "We have the skills and the knowledge. It's time we pool our resources and take a stand. Let's establish a cooperative where we support one another, share our tools, and educate each other about innovative farming techniques." From the back of the room, Jack clenched his fists, fury simmering beneath his cool facade. He had underestimated Tom's ability to rally people, and it infuriated him. "This is ridiculous," he muttered under his breath, determined to undermine his brother's newfound influence. As Tom spoke passionately about their vision, he noticed a few nods of approval and even a smile from Sarah. "We can organize workshops, invite experts, and even set up a community market," he continued, his enthusiasm infectious. "Imagine a place where we can sell our goods directly to consumers. We can cut out the middleman and keep our profits." The crowd erupted in applause, the energy in the room palpable. Tom felt a wave of exhilaration wash over him, but he remained focused. "We must be united. If we stand together, we can prove that we are more than just farmers. We are a community with a voice." Jack, watching from the shadows, felt his facade of confidence slipping. He leaned over to Greg, who had also come to witness the meeting. "This can't happen. We need to do something. He's gaining traction," he hissed, his voice low and tense. Greg raised an eyebrow. "What do you suggest? You can't just walk in and start throwing accusations. It'll backfire." Jack's mind raced. "Then we'll have to plant seeds of doubt. We need to make sure the community views Tom as a threat, a fraud who is trying to take advantage of their goodwill." Tom concluded his speech, his heart pounding with adrenaline and hope. "Together, we can build a future that honors our land and our families. Let's not let corporate greed dictate our lives. Let's stand united for what we believe in." The crowd erupted into applause, cheers echoing throughout the hall. Tom felt a sense of triumph as he stepped off the stage, but he could sense Jack's simmering hostility in the air. As the evening progressed, Tom mingled with the attendees, sharing ideas and fostering connections. Laughter and conversation filled the room, a stark contrast to the cold atmosphere Jack had cultivated in his empire. "Tom, that was incredible," Sarah exclaimed, her eyes shining with admiration. "You really inspired everyone." "Thanks, Sarah. It means a lot coming from you," Tom replied, a smile breaking across his face. He felt a sense of belonging that had long eluded him, and it felt good. Meanwhile, Jack seethed from his vantage point. Every smile directed Tom's way felt like a personal affront. "I'll show him," he muttered darkly, a plan forming in his mind as he plotted his next move. As the meeting came to a close, Tom stood at the door, bidding farewell to the last of the attendees. He felt a mixture of pride and hope, his brother's shadow still looming over him but no longer controlling his every decision. "Tom, we're with you," one of the farmers said, clasping his shoulder firmly. "You're doing something great. Let's keep this momentum going." "Absolutely," Tom replied, his heart swelling with gratitude. "Together, we can make a real difference." As the last of the townsfolk drifted into the night, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. He had taken a stand against his brother, and despite Jack's looming threat, he felt a newfound strength surging within him. Little did he know, Jack was already plotting his next move, and the battle between the Harrington brothers was far from over. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows over the Harrington estate, tension crackled in the air like the static before a storm. Jack Harrington stood proudly before a gathering of business associates and local dignitaries, a confident smile plastered across his face. He had just announced a significant investment in the very agricultural technology that his brother Tom had been championing for months. The crowd erupted in applause, but Tom, standing at the edge of the gathering, felt his heart plummet. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jack boomed, his voice dripping with false sincerity, "I've always been a believer in innovation. My investments today will revolutionize farming in our community. Just as I've always envisioned." He gestured grandly, as if he were painting a masterpiece with his words. Tom clenched his fists, feeling the sting of betrayal. Jack was taking credit for his hard work, his ideas, and it made him sick. He stepped forward, determination etched on his face. "Jack!" he called out, his voice steady but firm, cutting through the applause like a knife. Jack turned, feigning surprise. "Tom, what an unexpected pleasure. I didn't see you there. Of course you didn't. You were too busy basking in the glory of my ideas." Tom shot back, his voice rising with each word. "You can't just come in here and pretend you've been the one promoting these advancements. I've been working tirelessly to bring these ideas to life." The crowd fell silent, the tension palpable as everyone turned to witness the unfolding drama. Jack's smile faltered for a brief moment, replaced by a look of annoyance. "What are you talking about? I've always supported innovation. It's in my blood." "Supported?" Tom scoffed. "You've mocked me at every turn. You've spent the last year belittling my efforts and now you want to take credit for them? I worked hard to make this happen. While you were busy throwing lavish parties and flaunting your wealth." With each accusation, Tom felt a surge of adrenaline. This was more than just a brotherly spat. It was a battle for his dignity. As he spoke, he noticed a few of their father's old friends, men who had once respected Jack, now nodding along with Tom's words. "Tom's right," one of them spoke up, his voice gruff but supportive. "You've always had a knack for turning a profit, Jack, but this community needs more than just money. It needs integrity, hard work, and real support for the local farmers." "Exactly," Tom exclaimed, encouraged by the unexpected backing. "I'm not just trying to make a name for myself. I'm trying to uplift our entire community. We can't let greed dictate our future." Jack's face hardened, and he glanced at the gathering, realizing the tide was turning against him. "This is ridiculous," he said, his voice low and threatening. "You think they care about your little cow in your dreams? You're nothing but a joke to them, Tom." "No," Tom countered, his voice rising above the murmur of the crowd. "I'm not a joke. I'm the one who's putting in the work. I'm the one who's building relationships with our neighbors and supporting local farmers. You're just looking for a way to line your pockets, Jack." "Enough of this," Jack bellowed, his frustration boiling over. "You think you can just waltz in here and demand respect? I'm the one with the resources, the connections. You're still that pathetic little brother who inherited a lame cow." The crowd gasped at Jack's cruelty, and Tom felt a mixture of anger and pity for his brother. Jack's arrogance had blinded him to the reality of their situation. "I may have inherited Daisy, but I've turned her into something valuable. I've shown that determination matters more than inheritance," Tom replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil within him. The tension hung thick in the air, and Tom felt a sense of clarity wash over him. He was not just fighting for himself. He was fighting for every underdog, every overlooked farmer who believed in hard work over privilege. The crowd, once uncertain, began to murmur in support of Tom, their loyalties shifting. As Jack's face flushed with anger, he glanced around, realizing that he was losing the crowd. "You think this is over?" he spat. "You think I'll let you take what's rightfully mine? Rightfully yours?" Tom echoed, incredulous. "You've done nothing but ride the coattails of this family's name. I'm the one working to create something that matters, Jack. You're just interested in maintaining your status." The argument escalated, drawing in more of the onlookers. Old friends of their father stepped forward, aligning themselves with Tom, who felt a surge of support. "We've watched you both grow, and we cannot stand by while your brother tries to trample over the efforts of someone who's truly invested in this community," one of the men said, his voice resonating with authority. Jack's facade began to crack as he faced the growing dissent. "You'll regret this, Tom. I have the power to crush you. Don't think I won't use it. Crush me," Tom replied, a fire igniting in his chest. "You can try, but you'll only expose your own weakness. I won't back down." The confrontation marked a pivotal moment in their rivalry. Jack's attempts to undermine Tom had only succeeded in strengthening him, and as the crowd rallied around Tom, Jack found himself increasingly isolated. Days turned into sleepless nights for Tom as he prepared for the upcoming local fair. His mind raced with ideas on how to showcase Daisy's unique abilities, but he was also acutely aware of Jack's scheming nature. Rumors swirled that Jack would do anything to keep Tom from succeeding, and the stakes had never felt higher. Meanwhile, Jack, feeling the pressure of losing his grip on the community, became increasingly desperate. He summoned his aides and began to scheme, plotting ways to undermine Tom's efforts before the competition even began. "We can't let him gain any more momentum," Jack said, his voice low and filled with malice. "We need to take him down before he gets a chance to shine." As Jack paced in his office, a sinister plan began to form in his mind. "I want you to approach the local officials," he instructed an aide. "Offer them something to keep Tom from competing. He doesn't deserve to be in that arena. He's a nobody, and I won't let him make a fool of me." "Yes, sir," the aide replied, eager to please. "I'll make the arrangements." Jack leaned back in his chair, a cruel smile creeping across his face. He thought of how satisfying it would be to see Tom's dreams shattered. He believed that, with the right influence, he could bend the rules to his advantage. In his mind, he was the king of the family, and he wouldn't let his brother usurp his throne. But as Tom prepared for the competition, he felt a growing sense of community and support. The farmers he had befriended rallied around him, offering their assistance and encouragement. Tom knew he was no longer just fighting for himself. He was fighting for a movement that could change the landscape of their town. "Tom, we're with you," one of them said, clasping Tom's shoulder firmly. "Your ideas have inspired us all. We won't let Jack take this from you." With each passing day, Tom found himself more determined than ever. He had realized that true strength lay not in wealth but in unity and resilience. The fair was approaching, and he knew it would be a test not just of his abilities but of his resolve against his brother's relentless ambition. As the days grew shorter and the fair loomed ever closer, Tom prepared himself for the battle ahead. Jack may have had power and influence, but Tom had something far more valuable. He had the heart of a community ready to stand beside him, and for the first time in years, he felt hopeful. The day of the competition dawned with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Tom Harrington stood in front of the makeshift barn that served as the staging area for the event, his heart pounding in rhythm with the distant sounds of the crowd. He could feel the warmth of the sun on his back, a stark contrast to the chill of anxiety that gripped him. Daisy, the lame cow he had nurtured and trained, stood beside him, her gentle eyes reflecting a shared determination. "Today is our day, girl," Tom whispered, stroking Daisy's neck. Her soft, warm body calmed him. The memories of their shared struggles flooded back. The late nights spent training, the countless hours he had put into researching new techniques and methods that would maximize Daisy's potential despite her limp. Tom had learned to see beauty in resilience, both in himself and in his beloved cow. Around him, his newfound friends from the local farming community began to gather, their faces filled with a blend of hope and admiration. They had rallied behind Tom, recognizing his unwavering spirit and the vision he had for sustainable farming. This competition was not just a chance for Tom to prove himself. It was a stand against the corporate greed that Jack embodied. "Tom, you ready for this?" called out Sarah, a fellow farmer who had become a close ally. She had brought her own livestock to the fair, but her presence here was more than just about competition. It was about solidarity. "More than ever," Tom replied, a grin breaking through his earlier anxiety. "With all of you here, I feel like I can take on the world. Just remember, no matter what happens, we're proud of you," added Liam, another local farmer. The sincerity in his voice was a balm to Tom's nerves. As they chatted, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Farmers and families milled about, showcasing their animals, and the scent of fresh hay mingled with the sweet aroma of baked goods from nearby stalls. Tom's heart swelled with pride. This was his community, and he was finally a part of it. But he could sense Jack's looming shadow, and the thought of his brother made his stomach churn. Meanwhile, Jack Harrington was not far away, pacing like a lion in a cage. He seethed with rage, his mind racing with plans to undermine Tom's chances. The thought of his brother, the one he had mocked and belittled, coming into his own gnawed at him. He had to act before it was too late. "Everything is going according to plan," Jack muttered to himself, glancing at the equipment that Tom had borrowed for Daisy. It was state-of-the-art, and he knew if Daisy performed well, it would only amplify Tom's emerging reputation. Jack's gaze landed on a couple of his employees lingering nearby. They were loyal but had started to express sympathy for Tom's plight. Jack couldn't have that. "Hey, you two," he barked, summoning them over. "I need you to ensure that Tom doesn't have an easy time today. You know what's at stake." "Are you sure about this, Jack?" one of them asked hesitantly. "Tom seems to be doing well. Maybe we should just let it go." "Let it go," Jack snapped, his eyes narrowing. "We can't allow him to take the spotlight. Do your job. Sabotage his equipment if you have to. Make it look like an accident. I want him to fail." As they nodded, Jack felt a surge of confidence. He had always been the one in control, and he wasn't about to lose that now. Back at the barn, Tom was busy making final adjustments to Daisy's harness, his focus unwavering. The crowd was gathering, and he could hear the distant cheers echoing through the fairgrounds. It was time for the competition to begin, and he was filled with a sense of purpose. Suddenly, a young man hurried over, his face pale. "Tom, you need to come quick. I just overheard Jack and his guys talking. They're planning to sabotage Daisy's equipment." Tom's heart sank. The realization hit him like a cold wave. What? They're going to do what? His mind raced. He had prepared so much, and now it felt like it was all slipping through his fingers. "They're going to mess with your harness," the young man continued, urgency lacing his words. "You have to act fast." "Where are they?" Tom demanded, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Over by the equipment shed. I don't think they've done anything yet, but you need to hurry." "Thanks for telling me," Tom said, determination setting in. He turned to his friends, who were still gathered around. "I need to go check on Daisy's gear. Jack is planning something. I can't let him ruin this for us." "Go, we'll hold down the fort here," Sarah assured him, her voice steady. Tom dashed toward the equipment shed, a sense of urgency propelling him forward. As he arrived, he found Jack's two employees huddled together, looking suspiciously at Daisy's harness. "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" Tom shouted, his voice echoing off the walls. The two men jumped, clearly startled. "We were just..." "Cut the crap. I know what you're up to," Tom said, advancing toward them. "You think you can just sabotage my chances? This is about more than just a competition for me. We're just following orders," one of them mumbled, avoiding Tom's gaze. "Orders from Jack," Tom spat. "You know he's wrong for this. You don't have to do this. You can walk away." The men exchanged glances, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. Tom took a deep breath, trying to appeal to their better judgment. "Look, Jack's not going to win this fight. He's not the only one who can be successful. We can build something better together. Don't you want that?" For a moment, silence hung in the air, thick with tension. Then one of them stepped forward, his resolve hardening. "You're right. This isn't who we are. We won't sabotage you. Let's fix this." Tom felt a surge of relief wash over him. Together, they quickly inspected the harness, ensuring everything was in order. The clock was ticking, and he could hear the announcer's voice calling the competitors to the main stage. "Thank you," Tom said, genuine gratitude filling his voice. "This means more than you know." With the repairs complete, Tom rushed back to the barn where Daisy stood waiting, her gentle demeanor calming his frayed nerves. He took a moment to breathe, to wrap his mind around what was about to happen. "Let's do this, Daisy," he said softly, taking her halter in hand. The bond they shared felt stronger than ever, fortified by their trials and tribulations. Together, they would face whatever the competition had in store for them. As they made their way toward the competition area, Tom's heart swelled with pride. He was not just competing. He was standing up for what he believed in, for the community that had embraced him, and for the values that truly mattered. Today was not just about winning. It was about resilience, family, and the courage to rise against the odds. The bustling atmosphere of the competition was electric, filled with the sounds of excited chatter, the occasional mooing of livestock, and the clinking of metal as participants prepared their entries. Tom Harrington stood nervously beside Daisy, the once lame cow that had become his pride and joy. The sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow over the field, and Tom felt the weight of the moment pressing heavily on his shoulders. He could see families gathered, friends cheering, and the judges preparing their notes. Tom had trained Daisy rigorously, and today was their chance to shine. As the competition commenced, Tom and Daisy dazzled the judges with their unique skills. Daisy was no longer just a lame cow. She had become a symbol of resilience. Her gait was steady, each step an embodiment of the countless hours Tom had spent training her. The judges watched intently, impressed by the bond between the man and his animal. Tom whispered words of encouragement, and Daisy responded with a flick of her ears, as if she understood the significance of the moment. Just as victory seemed within reach, a familiar, sneering voice cut through the cheers. It was Jack. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we celebrate my brother's so-called success, let me remind you of the lengths he went to for this moment." Jack stepped forward, a smug expression plastered on his face. The crowd turned, murmurs rippling through the audience as they shifted their attention from Tom to Jack. "What's he talking about?" someone whispered in the crowd. Jack continued, his voice dripping with condescension. "You see, Tom here didn't play by the rules. I caught wind of a little sabotage attempt he orchestrated. Tampering with equipment, desperate measures for a desperate man." He smirked, arms crossed, relishing the tension he was creating. Tom's heart sank. He had worked so hard to overcome the humiliation of the past, and now Jack was trying to drag him back down into the mud. The crowd gasped, some exchanging incredulous glances, while others outright laughed at Jack's audacity. But before Tom could respond, one of the judges, a stern-looking woman named Clara, stepped forward. Her brow furrowed, and her voice rang clear and authoritative. "Mr. Harrington, I think you owe your brother an apology," Clara said, her tone unwavering. "I've been a judge at this competition for over a decade, and I've seen many things, but I've never seen someone work as hard as Tom has for this moment." Jack opened his mouth to retort, but Clara raised a hand to silence him. "You came here today to support your brother, or at least that's what I thought. Instead, you're attempting to undermine him in front of everyone. Is this how you treat family?" The crowd began to murmur again, but this time the sentiment was against Jack. "He's right," someone shouted from the back. "Tom's the one who deserves our respect." Jack's face flushed with anger, but he was losing control. The crowd was turning, and he felt the walls closing in. "You don't understand," he stammered, desperation creeping into his voice. "I'm the successful one here. I built my empire from nothing, by trampling over others." Another voice yelled back, echoing the growing sentiment among the audience. Tom's friends, the local farmers he had united, were stepping forward, their support palpable. Clara continued, her gaze unwavering. "Tom has shown integrity, hard work, and dedication. He's inspired many in this community to strive for better practices. If you wish to tarnish that with unfounded accusations, then perhaps it is your own character that needs examination." The crowd erupted in agreement, and Tom felt an unexpected surge of confidence. He stepped forward, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Jack, I've tried to rise above this. I've worked hard to prove that success isn't measured by wealth, but by the relationships we build and how we uplift one another. I won't let your arrogance define me anymore." Jack clenched his fists, his face a mask of disbelief and rage. "You think you're better than me? You're just a farmer with a lame cow," he spat, but the words felt hollow. The crowd was no longer on his side. They were rallying behind Tom. With the final performances ahead, the judges began to tally points, the air thick with anticipation. Tom could feel the energy of the audience shifting in his favor. Daisy stood beside him, calm and collected, as if sensing the tide of change. As the last contestants finished their routines, Tom felt a sense of inevitability wash over him. Today could be his day. Finally, the head judge called for the crowd's attention, her voice cutting through the chatter. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We have reached a decision." Silence fell and Tom's heart raced. "This year, the winner of the Best in Show award goes to..." Tom, Harrington, and Daisy. The crowd erupted into applause, cheers echoing across the field. Tom stood frozen for a moment, disbelief washing over him. He had done it. He had won. The judges approached, and Clara extended her hand, her smile genuine. "Congratulations, Tom. You've earned this." Tom took her hand, shaking it firmly. "Thank you," he said, his voice choked with emotion. He turned to face the crowd, tears brimming in his eyes. "Thank you all for believing in us. This isn't just my victory. It's ours." The applause grew louder, and Tom's friends rushed to his side, lifting him into the air in celebration. Jack stood at the edge of the crowd, his face pale, a shadow of his former self. The realization of his own arrogance and the consequences of his actions weighed heavily on him. As the festivities began, Jack slipped away, humiliated and alone, stripped of the pride that had defined him for so long. He could hear the laughter and joy from the crowd, but it felt distant, a world away from the one he inhabited. Tom, meanwhile, basked in the warmth of community and the bonds he had forged. He had not only won a competition but had reclaimed his dignity and self-worth. In that moment, Tom understood the true value of success. It wasn't about wealth or status. It was about the people who stood beside him, the relationships he had nurtured, and the resilience that had brought him this far. He had transformed his meager inheritance into a legacy of hope, and as he looked at Daisy, he knew their journey was just beginning. If you like the content, don't forget to leave a like, a comment, and share it with your friends. Your comment is essential for the growth of the channel. And look at this video that appears on the screen. See you soon.